Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto was in Sword Art Online, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
It's been 2 weeks since the incident on the 100th floor. After the defeat of Kirito and his party, no one tried to clear the quest anymore. Of course, there were some rumors how the last boss looked like. But from those rumors none were the correct one. When the new year came, Naruto practically crying for his budget as he need to buy some decent present for 3 of his girlfriends as well something for his sister Asuna. Naruto decided that he will need more money and went to Recto Progress and asked Yuki Koichiro, Asuna's old brother, to find him a job there. Koichiro get along with Naruto very well, since the adoption. So he makes Naruto his part-time assistant and helps him with the works that he didn't enough time to finish. Naruto, since the day he lost Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu, felt that he was not really himself. That's why he went to the director of Recto Progress and tried to return both his sword style and Kirito's dual wielding. He proposed a newly developed program that could make players to transfer data from different source to the movements in VR MMO. The director was very impressed with the idea and agreed immediately. Naruto also proposed some of his idea about new weapons and skills, as well as new sword styles for the new update. Since Hiten Mitsurugi has returned to him, all his former skills will pass to a random player with the same race as his character. Naruto also decided to unlock the 21 to 30 floor in New Aincrad at the same time with the new update. When Kirito heard that Naruto had returned his dual wielding, he felt surprised and glad at the same time. Though Naruto told him that his dual wielding and Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu are no longer that powerful now compare with the new sword style and skills in the new update. There are such styles that could be considered on par or even surpass their style. For example, Kodaki Nitu Ryu and Shigasoen Ryu, as well as Santo Ryu are the styles that could be considered on par with Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu and Kirito's dual wielding. Asada Shino, as she told the girls, had moved to live in Naruto's old apartment. Jiraiya also lived in the same apartment and helped Naruto with the development of Shinobi World Online. Naruto no longer lived in Yuki's household, as he need to concentrate on his work. And Asuna had already in the Kyoto, Yuki Shuzu always busy and practically never present at home, so there was no one in the household for now. Allo. New Aincrad. Floor 22. The girls were seen sitting on the sofa and doing their homework. Though you could see that one of them is napping. That girl was Silica and she is napping at Asuna's shoulder cutely while her ears twitching constantly. Asuna seeing that smiled and poked her cheek to wake her up. Hey, if you nap you won't be able to sleep tonight. And there are only 3 days of winter break left. You need to finish your homework. Before she left, Shinonen said she already finished her homework, said Asuna to Silica, while the girl is rubbing her eyes to wash the sleep away and stretched. Man, I feel so tired, said Silica while yawning. Hee, maybe the room is too warm. Maybe I should lower the temperature, said Asuna laughed a little bit. Leafa doing her homework hearing that looked at Asuna also laughed a little and replied. I think it's because of those. Asuna heard that looked at the sleeping face of Kirito, that has Yui and Pina on his lap then to her left and saw Naruto also sleeping with Wendy hugging him. Oh, I understand now. Ever since the GGO I've seen Naruto always very busy with his work that he even decided return to his old apartment to work there. And he even decided to take a part-time job in my father's former company to satisfy you girls, said Asuna looking at Naruto's sleeping figure smiling. Leafa and Lisbeth also looked at Naruto with loving eyes. Leafa replied. I am very touched that he cared so much about us. I feel so happy now knowing that he treasures us this much. Well, it's the reason we all love him so much too, are we not? He will do everything to his precious people after all, said Lisbeth looking at Naruto with soft smile. But you guys, I am still shocked that Naruto-kun is actually the last boss and the ruler of New Aincrad. Not that, but his strength is on the whole other level than us. He even defeat Oni-chan at his best, replied Leafa recalling the event 2 weeks ago. Lisbeth nodded her head and replied. Me too. Even though I knew those two were powerful, but what we saw that day was completely ridiculous. Well, as the one that has watched them since Sao incident, I knew that their level were completely differs from the other VR MMO players. I just didn't know that they could improve even more than that, answered Asuna. She then looked around her house and smiled, as she recalled how they got back this house. Flashback. A week ago. Dicey Cafe. Asuna and Kirito decided to go on a date and went to the Dicey Cafe as usual. Right now, they're sitting in their sits and wait for Agil to bring their order. Here you go, said Agil and put down 2 cups of coffee on the table in front of them. You know, you don't have to come to a dingy place like this for a date every time. You could go somewhere more fashionable, right? Anona, I am not as loud as Naruto, you know. Besides, compared to your place in Algate, this place is fashionable, retort Kirito sipping his coffee. At that statement Agil made a face. I like that place, said Asuna. Why is that? That place is a rip-off. Agil, when hearing Asuna said that she liked his shop, closed his eyes and nodded his head a little, then when he heard Kirito's statement his face frowned once again. You were living there for free, Kirito-kun. But that doesn't change anything. Agil just grinned when looking how Asuna and Kirito argued. Kirito noticed that and asked. Oi, what are you grinning at? Nope, nothing really. I was just thinking. When you are this way, you really don't look like the lead group's 2 of the 3 best players, answered Agil looking at the 2 of them. I could say the same about you, Kirito said deadpanned. Have you been an MMORPG player for a long time, Agil-san? Asuna decided to ask. Yeah, I met my wife in a game. She lived in America then, but a year later, she and I started a cafe. You never know what will happen in life, Agil told them his story. Asuna hearing that smiled widely at hearing how romantic it is. If he heard that, who knows what Klein would say, eh? Asked Kirito with deadpan eyes. Then we were going to buy 2 Navagears. But we could only reserve 1. The 2 of us then decided to play a game to determine who will try the Navagear first. I'm still glad I had 1, and she didn't, Kirito nodded his head in agreement. I joined the lead group because I had this place. I can't let my wife run it forever. I am still grateful to Naruto to this day, when he decided to sacrifice himself to clear Sao. Kirito looked down at the table and said, Indeed, Naruto is amazing. It's true that my desire to return to my family also saved me. But I will not know if I was in Naruto's place. Could I really prepare to do the same thing he did for us? Even if he didn't want to admit it himself, Naruto is a true hero in the hearts of all Sao players. What about you, Asuna? You had some motivation like that too, right? Asked Agil turning to Asuna. Well, I didn't really like my family that much before that. I always felt that there was no place for me whether in virtual world or real world. But Kirito-kun and Naruto gave me a home. Our house on the 22th floor felt more like home to me than the house I lived in. I knew that Sao was cleared, then our home would disappear as well. But I still believe that one day we could get our home back, said Asuna and then turned to Kirito and touched his palm with gentle eyes. Agil coughed in his knuckle to gain their attention. About that, I think Naruto had unlocked the 21 to 30 floors along with the new update. And you know what? There will be new weapons, sword skills and even new sword styles. I even heard he has returned both Hit and Mitsurugi Ryu and dual wielding. Kirito and Asuna hearing that widened their eyes in surprise. Kirito then snapped out and smirked. That Naruto sure knows how to surprise people, eh? Asuna turned to Kirito and asked hopefully. Kirito-kun, that means if we defeat the boss on the 21st floor we could buy that log cabin again. Yeah. But the new Aincrad may be altered from the old Aincrad, so we didn't know if the cabin is in the same place, retort Kirito and brush his hand to his chin. That may be so. But I have faith in Naruto. I think he will also miss the time we spent together in our house, said Asuna looking ahead. Speaking of that, our house is the last place we seen Naruto before he decided to clear the game, NE. It brings back both happy and sorrow memories, replied Kirito and looked down sadly at the memory. Yeah. It was the same place where he said goodbye to us. The same place where he decided to left us behind, muttered Asuna solemnly at the memory. Then she looked up and smiled a little, but that was all in the past now. Kirito nodded his head in agreement and grinned. You are right. That was all in the past. Our present and future will be brighter. Time skip. Allo. Nome airspace. Asuna along with Kirito, Klein, Agel and the girls were fighting the boss of 21st floor, a huge stone golem. All were present except Naruto. Along with them there were also the other parties, that came here to help defeat the boss as well. Together with the new skills and weapons they had managed to defeat the boss easily. Of course, Asuna was the one who finished the boss. Suddenly they all heard a clap and turned to that direction. They saw that Naruto was sitting on the rock and clapping his hands with a wide grin. Bravo! That's my Ne-chan for you. The title of healing berserker really suit you after all. Naruto. They all shouted together seeing him sitting there. If you were there, why didn't you help us, huh, you're jerk? Asked Sinan with a twitch eye. Actually I arrived a minute late. And also why should I do that? I see that you guys could clearly handle him easily, answered Naruto scratching his head. Really? And I think that you find it just too troublesome to help us. Is that right? Asked Lisbeth with a glare that caused Naruto to pale and shook his head in denial rapidly. All the players looked at the scene and sweat dropped. It's a very comical picture really. Even if he is the most powerful player of Alo, he was still whipped by his wife and girlfriends. The scene is so comical that one after the other they began to laugh. Time skip. Silica was the first one to reach the forest zone of the 22nd floor. Yay, I made here first. Behind her were the others. You also could see Naruto carrying Liz bridal style, while she grinned happily and nuzzled in the crook of his neck. Naruto looked down at her and smiled softly, then he looked up at the sight and said, "This place didn't change one bit, Liz." "Yeah, it didn't change at all. The same place when we came here to marry each other and bought our own cabin," said Liz and looked up at the sight in nostalgia as well. Liz then turned to Asuna and she's still looking at the sight. "Asuna, you go and do what you to do. We will catch up soon enough." Asuna hearing that smiled and nodded her head, then she activated her wings and took off. Kirito and Yui also followed her. Naruto then looked back at Liz and asked, "Don't you want to buy our old cabin as well?" Liz just shook her head and answered, "I think it will not be necessary. We will all live in Asuna's house. We will all fit in there. So I didn't really want to buy one more house." Naruto nodded his head at her reason. With Kirito, Asuna and Yui, they are flying to their planned destination at great speed. Suddenly Asuna noticed something ahead of her. She narrowed her eyes to clear her vision and widened her eyes upon recognizing what is it. She turned to Kirito and smiled brightly. "Look, Kirito-kun," said Asuna and pointed at the cabin not far ahead of them. She quickly flew to the direction, then landed hurriedly and run to the tablet that right, for sale. Kirito landed next to her and approached her. She smiled and turned to Kirito. He nodded his head and she pressed on the tablet. The price of the house appeared and also the accept button. She pressed on them and the house were unlocked. Then the key before the door disappeared and reappeared in Asuna's palm. She looked at it, then unlocks the door to the house. Asuna, Kirito and Yui, that transformed back to her human form, walked in their house. The house was empty. Thought Asuna looked around and recalled how it looked before with full of stuff. Suddenly the tears gathers in her eyes and she muttered, "I am home." End flashback. As remembering the memory of how she got back, the house caused her to take a nap unexpected as well. "Hey Asuna-san. You fell asleep as well," exclaimed Lifa and shook Asuna awake. Then she turned to Liz and saw she is napping as well. "And you too, Liz." Liz snapped out of her sleep, then turned to the still sleeping face of Naruto and said with deadpan eyes, "And I wondered why I fell asleep so quickly." Asuna, looking at Kirito, still sleeping figure, smiled at the sight, then turned to the girls and said, "Shall I make the tea for us to wake up, eh?" Time skip. The girls decided to go outside to refresh themselves. They watched the snow fall for a while. Suddenly the snow stopped falling. At the same time Liz recalled something interesting. Asuna, ever heard of Zeken?" asked Liz. "Zeken? What is that? A new rare item or something?" wondered Asuna, tilted her head aside. No, it's someone's name," said Liz while shaking her finger. "Well, actually more like a nickname, I guess. They are so strong that people began to call them Zeken, Absolute Blade. I actually think that nickname fits Naruto-kun better. But now he uses even magic, so called him Zeken, is not exactly right." "Hey, strong. So what are they like?" asked Asuna curiously. "Well, technically the rumors start not long ago. But if recalled right, you were still in Kyoto back then," said Liz. Don't remind me that when I am here. It was plain horrible, retort Asuna at the memory. Hey, it's tough to be a girl from rich family NE. Asked Liz teasingly. Of course it is. I must wear kimono and kneel the whole day, greeting people. At night, when I want to dive, I couldn't because in my room there was no wireless LAN. But that's not the worst, said Asuna and recalled how she must greet those arrogant rich bastards that tried to woo her. She was so deep in her thought that she didn't notice that Liz has been calling her for a while. Asuna, Asuna, shouted Liz and managed to snap her back to reality. Oh, sorry, I just recalled something not very pleasant in Kyoto, answered Asuna sheepishly. Really? Did they force you to an arranged marriage or something? But I doubt Naruto-kun will allow something like that happened, asked Liz teasingly and then smirked. No, nothing like that happened. And yeah, if something like that would happened, Naruto will go find that guy and then scared him shitless, denied Asuna then grinned at the possibility. Then she turned to Liz and asked. So if they are that powerful, are they PK players? No, they just duel, answered Liz. Were they in tournament? Asuna asked. No, they are completely new. But their skill points are high, so maybe they were convert from the another game. You know the little island on the north of 24th floor's main town with the big tree. Every day, at 3 o'clock, they stood there and fight anyone who challenged them in one-on-one fight. At first there were messages on the MMO tomorrow that said they are seeking the strongest challenges. Of course, people want to teach the arrogant newbies a lesson. So at first 30 or so people showed up, but, said Liz and left the sentence unfinished. They beat 'em all. Asuna finished the sentence while asking. Every single one. Their HP never lowered more than 70% in any duels, said Liz still amazed at the memory. Silica put her newly made snowman in the railing and exclaimed. It's really unbelievable. The way they flew, it's like they already had done that hundreds of times, despite being a newbie. That's so unfair, it took me 6 months before I was able to fight in the air. Did you fight them, Silica-chan? Wondered Asuna. No way. Just watching them fight, I already know that I don't stand a chance at winning, answered Silica. But Liz-san and Leafa-san challenged them yesterday though. They are really brave. Oh, shut up, muttered Liz. I did that to gain experience only, replied Leafa. Then they looked at the sky and saw the snow began to fall again. So they all go back to the house to continue their talking. Asuna brought a pie and makes some cup of tea and resumed their talking. About that Zeken. If they showed off their strength constantly like that, doesn't that mean that nobody will want challenge them anymore? Who said they are fighting for free? They betted something really amazing, said Silica accepting a plate of cake from Asuna. And what is that? Some kind of rare item? Wondered Asuna. It's not the item. It's the original sword skill. Like the one we saw Naruto-san performed, answered Silica. Really? Os. For what weapon and how many hits? Is it better than Naruto's final Requiem? Asked Asuna question after question. Are you kidding? Naruto-san Os is on a completely different level. But this skill is also super amazing. It's a skill for a one-hand sword and it's an 11-hit combo, answered Silica after swallowing her piece of cake. 11? Huh. Well, but Naruto's Os is 40-hit combo with blurred speed. Though Naruto is on the level of his own, so just moved on from that, said Asuna. General Eugene also created one Os called Volcanic Blazer and it's a 8-hit combo, said Leafa joining the conversation. Now I understand why so many people challenge them like that, said Asuna. That's not all. You know that when Naruto-kun got back his old sword style, his former style was given to a random player, right? Asked Liz, at which Asuna nodded her head. Zeken has inherited all of his former skills. That was also a reason why nobody could defeat them. Asuna hearing that widened her eyes and recalled how powerful all those skills during that fight with Kirito, Naruto had demonstrated. I was doing fine when our HP is at 60%, before they performed Naruto-kun's Phantom Burst to overwhelm me quickly, said Leafa. I forgot to ask, what is their race and weapon? Asked Asuna. The same race as Naruto-kun, an imp. And the weapon is a one-hand straight sword. They are also very fast, not on the level of Naruto-kun, but still I couldn't keep up with their movements. I am still shocked, answered Leafa. A speed type A. Well, then I wouldn't have stand a chance I guess, said Asuna. Then she recalled something and looked at the sleeping figure of Kirito in front of her. Speaking of speed movements, that person is also very fast as well. What about Kirito-kun? He should have interested in something like this. The girls just looked at each other, then Lifa decided to answer the question. Oni-chan is already fought. And he was very cool when he lost. Was he serious back then? You guys already seen him when serious with the battle with Naruto, right? Asked Asuna. Well, to tell truthfully, he was serious back then. The fight with Naruto-kun though is when he decided to go all out. I think Kirito wouldn't fight anyone except Naruto-kun all out, answered Liz with her hand on her chin. What about Naruto then? Some battle maniac like him sure won't let such a chance to fight a strong opponent to slip. Asked Asuna and laughed a little with the girls. Actually Naruto-kun was off yesterday. But I bet after hearing about that Zeken he will rush there tomorrow, answered Lifa looking at Naruto's sleeping face. But something really strange happened during the fight between Oni-chan and Zeken though. When the fight about to end, Oni-chan clashed blades with Zeken and said something to Zeken. After that they broke apart and Oni-chan was defeated by Zeken's Phantom Sonic Rush. What were they talking about? Wondered Asuna. He didn't tell me. Must be something he figured out during the fight, replied Lifa with a frown. Well, then I maybe should ask Zeken myself, said Asuna. Ho, so you decided to fight them? Wondered Liz. Well, yeah, I don't really think I could win. But this Zeken really interests me. I feel that they came to Alo for a different goal other than dueling. Even if you lost, I know for sure that Naruto-kun will win. And I feel that tomorrow he will pull some kind of stunt during the duel, said Liz and turned to Naruto with deadpan eyes. Okay then I will be there at 3 a.m. 24th floor, right? Oh my god, it is already 6 p.m. I will be late for dinner, exclaimed Asuna. He, it's hard to be a rich girl, eh? Liz teased Asuna, while Asuna looked down at the ground solemnly. Okay, let's call it a day then, said Lifa. None of them actually noticed Naruto has opened his eyes slightly and heard part of their talking. Zeken, the inheritor of my phantom skills. Tomorrow will be a very interesting day. After determined the location and the time when Zeken will appear, Asuna decided logged out. But not before looking one last at the Kirito, that already awakened. Then she glanced at Naruto who was still napping, with Wendy also sleeping in his lap. Kyoto. Asuna's room. Asuna opened her eyes and sat up. Then she turned off the atmosphere and took it off from her head. She hugged herself as she felt the chills from the cold weather. She went slowly to her wardrobe and took a coat from there, then put it on. Time skip. Asuna walked down from the stairs, then she noticed a servant that served her personally was about to leave. She decided to greet her. Good night, Sada-san. Thank you for coming every day. And also sorry for keeping her this late. The woman turned to Asuna and shook her head, replied. It's not a problem at all, okay Aju-sama. This is my job after all. She bowed her head down a little after the statement. Are my brother and mother already back? Asked Asuna. Koichiro-sama will be late again. Your mother is already in the dining room waiting for you, answered the woman. Thanks for telling me. And sorry once again for keeping you late, said Asuna. The woman bowed down and then opened the door and left. Asuna walked straight to the dining room and opened the door. There she saw her mother is already sitting at the table, eating. Upon noticing Asuna's presence, she said, You are late. Try to be at the table 5 minutes before the dinner. I am sorry, apologized Asuna and went to sit in her seat. She looked her mother for a while until her mother turned her gaze at her to snap her back. Asuna muttered, Itadakimasu. Abs began to eat her food. They ate silently for some minutes before her mother asked, Were you using that machine again? Yes, I promised to do homework with everyone, answered Asuna. You need to move your hands when you do it or else you won't learn anything, replied Kyoko and cleaned her mouth with a napkin. Everyone lives far away, so this is the only way to meet up with them, reasoned Asuna. If you are using that machine then you're not actually meeting them. Just do your homework alone. If you do it with others, you'll just end up playing around, retort Kyoko. She then took a gulp of her drink and continued, Listen, you don't have time to play around. You are already 2 years behind other children. To make it up for it, you need to study harder. But I am studying. I printed out the second quarter report card and put it on your desk, retort Asuna. I saw it, but the result from a school like that means nothing, retort Kyoko. A school like that, repeated Asuna. Listen, Asuna. For the third quarter I will hire a tutor for you, in addition to your studying. And not from internet, like it's popular these days, but I will have them come here to tutor you, said Kyoko. Asuna widened her eyes at the sudden decision and replied. Wait a minute. It's too sudden. Kyoko gave Asuna the touchpad that she picked up from the table. Asuna saw the image of the school on the screen. There is also the writing, Entry Exam Introduction, on it, which caught Asuna's attention immediately. Entry Exam Introduction. What is this? Asked Asuna. For your third year, I managed to convince a friend of mine to let you take the exam in the high school that he runs. A real school, not the makeshift one that they put together. It uses the credit system, so you will manage to graduate the first half of the year. Then you can start college in September, Kyoko told her daughter what she planned. Wait. You can't decide everything for me like that. I like my school. There are lots of good teachers there. So I don't want to separate from my friends there. Plus Naruto is also studying there. There is no need for me to move to another school. Retort Asuna. Kyoto at the mention of Naruto's name just narrowed her eyes displeasingly, then she sighed and began to explain to Asuna her decision. I did my research. The school you are attending just barely worthy the name. The curriculum is sloppy. The classes are easy. The teachers are all a bunch of nobodies with no real experience. Why you don't have to put it like that, replied Asuna solemnly. And about that boy, I don't want to hear anything about him, said Kyoko disdainfully. Asuna looked up at her mother and asked, Why? Why do you hate Naruto like that? Has he ever done anything to you? Everybody in the family except him except you. Please, tell me why. You don't need to know. Besides, he is just a murderer. He shouldn't be praised like that, but sit in jail, replied Kyoko coldly. You don't know anything, Ka-san. Naruto saved us all from the death game. He saved my life and nearly dying in the process. All thanks to the dear fiancé that you chose for me, shouted Asuna, narrowing her eyes at her mother. That didn't change the fact that he has killed hundreds of person in that game. And Shugu was your father's choice, not mine, retort Kyoko. Naruto did that to save other players from getting killed. All those he killed were the ones that enjoyed killing. If he wouldn't have had done that, there will be more people dying. Also, do you really think he want to do that? Naruto knows that killing is bad, but he need to do that in order to save others. But I don't believe the reason that you dislike Naruto is that. So please tell me. I want to know. Naruto is my brother after all, said Asuna and plead her mother. Kyoto looked away and began to talk. It happened long time ago, when I was still a student. I had two friends that were my best friends. The names are Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Asuna widened her eyes at hearing the Uzumaki name. She deduced that it was Naruto's birth mother name. Quote. We always hanged with each other, did homework, and helped each other when in need. We were inseparable. That was before I felt in love with Minato. Minato was always popular in university because of his look as well as his brain. I don't even remember how I fell in love with him. Some time has passed and I finally got a date with him. We have been dating for 3 months. Then one fateful day, I discovered accidentally that Minato is cheating on me with my best friend Kushina. I felt so terrible and heartbroken back then. I wanted to hate them for their betrayal. I couldn't cease to love Minato to this day, even if I already married and had you. Then I heard that both he and Kushina has died. That fact caused me to hate them even more, because they promised me that no matter what we will always be friends. Then I heard that they had a son that 1 year junior to you. When I first looked at Naruto, my eyes widened. He looked exactly like his father. I can't look at him normally and don't felt anything after all what happened to me. Everything about him reminds me of those two, from his genius mind to his selfless self that willing to go to any length to his friends. Kyoko finished her story solemnly and took a huge gulp of her drink. Asuna was speechless. She never knew that her mother has a past with Naruto's parents. She looked carefully at her mother and asked, Keika-san, do you still love Minato-san? Her mother just sighed heavily and responded, it didn't matter anyway. He is dead already. The only thing left from him was that virtual world that you were so fascinated as well as his son. But Naruto is not at fault for his parents' actions, Ka-san. He was very glad that dad decided to adopt him in our family. He always felt confused when you looked at him with such disdain eyes, reasoned Asuna. I know that. But it's not easily like that. Even if I accepted to be friends with Minato and Kushina again, didn't mean that I actually forgave them everything. And Naruto is a reminder of my first experience of the most painful betrayal from his parents, replied Kyoko. She sighed heavily, then looked at Asuna and said, enough about my past and Naruto. Asuna, I want you to have a career you could be proud of, no matter to whom you are speaking. That's why it's best for you to transfer. My career. Then who is that man that you made me meet over New Year? He was talking like I already engaged to him. You are the one that is limiting my options, Car-san. Shouted Asuna, clearly displeased at the memory. Kyoko took a gulp from her drink and answered calmly. Marriage is also part of your career. If you marry someone poor, you will regret it. You won't be able to do something whatever it is that's so important to you. But with Yuya, you don't have to worry. His family is pretty low and their economy is stable. He could take care of you without problems. Asuna looked at her mother with disappointed eyes and replied. Don't you know, Car-san, that there are things that far important than money in this world? I don't even know that Yuya at all. Plus on the first meeting he already showed his colors. I would have never marry someone like that. People will marry each other when they want to build a family and when they want to be with each other forever. That's what Naruto said to me. And I totally agree with his words. Okay, I will agree with anyone that worthy of you. Just so we clear, I won't accept anyone from those facilities. That include Naruto, said Kyoko. Asuna widened her eyes and asked. You didn't mean. You investigated him. And why do you put Naruto in? He is my brother. I just want you to be happy, Asuna. That boy and Naruto won't be able to bring you that happiness. And why I put Naruto in? That's because even if he is your brother now, with time you could have attracted to him and then the relationship between you and him will change, answered Kyoko. Asuna decided to just stand up from her sit silently and move to the door. Let me think about the transfer for a while, said Asuna while moving to the door. You have until the middle of next week. Fill it out and print 3 copies and put on the desk in my study, said Kyoko. Asuna was about to open the door bit before that she turned her head to her mother and asked. Car-san, you are ashamed of my dead grandpa and grandma, aren't you? You are angry that you didn't born in a rich family, aren't you? You are still angry that Minato-san didn't choose you over Kushina-san, aren't you? But do you ever wonder why? Kyoto hearing that widens her eyes in rage and shouted. Asuna, come here, quickly. But Asuna just closed the door and left the dining room, going to her room. In the dining room, Kyoko opened her purse and took out one photo. It was the photo of the 3 of them made when they were still in university. She looked at the smiling face of Minato Namikaze solemnly and caressing his image. Asuna's room. Asuna, after entering her room, immediately jumped into her bed. She began to think of the things that age had just recently found out. She was still surprised that her mother had a past with Naruto's birth parents. She took out her phone and looked at the picture of her and Kirito. Kirito-kun, muttered Asuna, and recalling the memory when she and he talked about what they will do in the future. Then she switched to the other picture where Naruto was sleepy and with deadpan eyes. She recalled that time after she took the picture she laughed so hard. I don't want to separate from you two. You both are very important to me. I want us to reach our dreams together. I am weak, I couldn't protect what my path. Not like Kirito-kun or Naruto. I was only be a warrior in that world. But lightning flash Asuna of Kotbo is gone. The real me is powerless. Suddenly she widens her eyes when she recalled one phrase Naruto said. If you were once a swordsman, then you will stay like that forever. It didn't matter whether in virtual or real world. You are one and the same person, and even if you want to deny that fact, it won't change. All I can is being a swordsman. That fact won't change even if I deny that. Then all I can do now is try my best as a swordsman, thought Asuna with determination blazing in her eyes. Next day. Allo. Floor 24. Asuna landed on the grass field and saw that Kirito is already lying there. He opened his eyes when he felt her presence. Yo. Kirito greeted her. It's rare for you to be here first. Did Naruto arrive? I would have think that he won't let such an opportunity skip, asked Asuna. It happens sometimes. And no, Naruto still hasn't logged in yet. He said that Shino-san catch the cold, so he will take care of her until the temperature fall down. So he probably will be a little late, answered Kirito. Asuna then sat next to him and put her head on his shoulder. They stay like that for a while until they heard a sound from the bush behind. They turned back and saw a black rabbit just come out of the bush. Seeing that caused Asuna to recall a certain memory. Hey, do you remember the first time you visit my room in Selmberg? Asked Asuna. I don't mean to brag, but my memory is horrible, replied Kirito and scratched the back of his head sheepishly. But I do remember that. Really? Of course. How could I forget the first time we taste the S-class ingredient? It was so good that just thinking about it, I want to eat it again, replied Kirito. Asuna narrowed her eyes and puffed her cheeks a little, then shoved him in stomach and exclaimed. Hey, you only remember about food, don't you? At that Kirito just laughed and Asuna also joined him. Then they looked at the sky and saw many fairies began to fly to the direction of the giant tree, where Zeken will appear. It's almost time. We need to go. Asuna, if you are going to fight. No. Nothing. Zeken is strong. That I already know. Liz and the girls told me how strong they are. But I still can't believe you lost. You nearly managed to defeat Naruto in his boss mode after all. By the way, Leafa told me that you were saying something to them during the duel. What did you ask them? Asked Asuna curiously. Something was bothering me, when I fought them. I asked, you are totally living in this world, aren't you? Zeken just answered with a wordless smile and unleashed Naruto's Phantom Sonic Rush with blinding speed. That speed was even greater than Naruto when I faced him, answered Kirito and also recalled the memory. Totally living in this world. You mean they are a heavy user? Asked Asuna. No, Kirito shook his head then continued, I am not talking about 1VR MMO. I felt that Zeken was a product of the full dive environment itself. Unknown to them, Naruto has just logged in and accidentally heard that phrase. He narrowed his eyes and decided to listen silently at their conversation. Well, I don't want to give you any preconceived notions. I want you to relax in this world. And, Naruto, come out and stop eavesdropping on foreign conversation, said Kirito, then turned his head to a certain direction and shouted. Naruto walked out of his hiding place and scratched his head, smiling sheepishly. Suddenly he felt someone glom at him from behind. He glanced back and saw that it was Liz. Yeah, it felt so nice to hug my husband like this, Liz said, smiling and bury her head to his back. Naruto smiled at her action. Naruto-kun, did Sinan-san feel better now? Has her temperature dropped? Asked Leafa approaching them. Yeah, she feels better now. She will make a totally recover tomorrow, answered Naruto, then turned to the couple and said, enough lovey-dovey for now, lovebirds. We need to go now. At the giant tree, there were a lot of people gathered there. You could also hear the sound of swords clashing above the tree. The party arrived, then looked up and saw the salamander falling to the ground. He crashed to the ground, then brought his hand up and said desperately, I surrender. I give up. Resign. People began to cheer loudly as Zeken defeat yet one more person. Wow. That's 67 wins in a row. Can't anyone stop her? Asuna and Naruto then looked up and saw that the figure was flying down. When Zeken landed to the ground, Naruto began to whistle loudly at her appearance, while Asuna just widened her eyes in surprise. Zeken was an average height girl with dark hair that reaches her back and red mischievous eyes. She bowed down her head at the public and then raised her head and brought the V sign with her hand. Naruto was snatched to the ear by Liz with deadpanned eyes. Why are you staring at her so intently? Huh. Naruto-kun. Naruto winced in pain and whined like a baby. He turned to Liz and begged her to release him. Leafa also narrowing her eyes at Naruto, that caused him to sweat nervously. Asuna then approached Liz and tapping her shoulder. Hey, Liz. What? Zeken is a girl. Huh. Didn't I tell you? Wondered Liz while sweating. You didn't. Then Asuna realized something and turned to Kirito with a scary expression and asked, is the reason you lost? Staring asterisk. And no, I didn't go easy on her because she is a girl. I am serious. At least halfway, denied Kirito and waving his hands. Asuna just huffed and turned back. I won't be sure of that. Next to her Liz is giggling. Behind her Naruto is giggling too, but that was before Liz turned her deadpan gaze to him. That action caused Naruto to shut up immediately and paled a little. Back to Zeken, she brought her hands to her mouth and began calling around the public. Anyone want to go next? Liz shoved Asuna with her elbow and said. Hora, go already. Wait, I need to psychologically prepare, complained Asuna. Just get going, said Liz and shoved her forward. Zeken looked at Asuna for a minute then asked with a smile. Oni-san, wanna try? Asuna was not very sure, but Naruto decided to. But in that moment. So you are Zeken? Asked Naruto approaching them. That's right. Oni-san, do you wanna fight too? Naruto smirked and said, yeah, but I have a better idea than a duel. Zeken cocked her head in curiosity and asked, and what is that? Naruto's smirk became wider as he says two words. Battle Royal. Asuna and Zeken blinked in surprise at the idea. Zeken turned to Asuna and asked, is it okay with you, Oni-san? Asuna turned to Naruto and saw he was grinning. She turned back to Zeken and shook her head. Okay. Zeken snapped her head then made a motion for the two of them to approach. So what are the rules for the fight? Asked Naruto. Just like standard rules, use anything you like. Magic or items. But I will only use this, said Zeken and put her hand on her sword. Oh, what do you two prefer? Ground or aerial fights? Naruto brought his finger and began to tap his chin in thought. He turned to Zeken and said, I'd prefer both, as that will not limit our fighting possibility. Zeken nodded her head and said, yeah, so then we could both ground and aerial fight. Are you two ready? When both nodded she began to challenge both to a duel. That created a battle royal. They looked at the invitation and saw that her name is Yuki. She glanced at Naruto and saw him grinning widely with excitement in his eyes. She then pressed, accept, as well as Naruto. And then countdown began. Both of the girls unsheathed the swords and stood in a stance. Only Naruto was standing relaxed and not unsheathing his sword. Yuki just raised her eyebrow in surprise. Asuna took a deep breath and glanced at both of her opponents a little nervously. When the battle started, Asuna immediately charged at Zeken and began to strike at her. Zeken fell back a little and began to deflect her strikes. Out of nowhere, Naruto appeared with his Kusanagi unsheathed and began to assault them both with battle lust in his eyes. The girls widened their eyes and were forced to defense. Yuki narrowed her eyes and unleashed phantom force with intent to blast Naruto back. But Naruto already disappeared and reappeared at Asuna's right side and slashed at her right side. Asuna reacted immediately and flew up to avoid the slash. Then she changed her stance and began to rush at Naruto with blind speed. Yuki saw the chance also use Phantom Sonic Rush at Naruto. Naruto was attacked from both sides and with the fast attacks that he couldn't dodge in time. But when the strikes hit he puffed in a black smoke and reappeared behind them. The girls are already panting heavily, while Naruto still hit breaking a sweat. They both looked at each other and nodded. They decided that they will take care of Naruto first. With that they both began to charge at Naruto and began their assault at him. Naruto was forced to defense. He jumped up in the air and unleashed Ryutsuzan at Yuki, but Asuna intercepted the attack. Yuki used that chance to flew at Naruto and stabbed Naruto to the shoulder. The teamwork between Asuna and Yuki was very good. Naruto couldn't react in time and took the hit. He landed to the ground and jumped back touching his shoulder, where he was strike. Yuki and Asuna smiled and began to surround him. They began to flew around him with blurred speed and attack him orderly. Naruto gritted his teeth in frustration then he unleashed Ryukansen, Kogarashi to blast both away. The girls stood up shakingly then turned the gaze to Naruto with each of their thoughts. This Oni-chan is a monster or what? My teamwork with that Oni-san is good. But even so he still overpower us. So this is Naruto's strength. Now I understand what Kirito-kun felt when facing him. He is too strong. Then Yuki and Asuba thought at the same time. It's time for me to get serious. Naruto felt the change of atmosphere then narrowed his eyes and prepared for what is about to unleash. The look in both Asuna and Yuki's eyes changed and they disappeared from his sight. His eyes looking right, left, up and down searching for them. Suddenly, Asuna appeared in his right side with her sword was about to stab at him. Naruto managed to somehow avoid the strike, but he was shocked at the speed. The dusts were raised up from Asuna's attack. Then Yuki appeared above him and began to slash at him with such speed that her sword became a blur. Naruto was very shocked at their performance, but still somehow managed to retreat safely. He took a deep breath then looked at both of his opponents. Wow, never knew Nei-san is this strong. Also their teamwork is flawlessly like they already know each other for years. If I don't get serious now then I will list for certain. Okay, enough holding back. With that Naruto took a deep breath and the air around him began to become colder. the battle lust coming from him in waves while his eyes are glowing. The audience began to sweat nervously. Asuna and Yuki also felt that, and they began to sweat as well. Naruto snapped his eyes at the both of them and disappeared. He then reappeared and used Ryukansen, Chumuji at both of them. The girls gritted their teeth and tried their hardest to deflect but still received some hits. Naruto jumped back, then shoved his sword to the ground and unleashed Doryusen. Asuna used quadruple pain to deflect the debris, while Yuki used phantom force to blast them away. Naruto disappeared again and reappeared behind him, then used Usozen. Yuki was forced to unleash her os to save Asuna from taking the hits. But Naruto smirked as his attack didn't not just end there. Naruto unleashed a battle cry and unleashed his own os, Final Requiem. And thus the girls earned all 40 hit of the skill and lose the fight. Yuki widened her eyes as she lied at the ground. She was still shocked at the skill she just experienced. She thought that her mother's Rosario was the skill with the most combo hits, but now she just witnessed the skill of 40 hits combo. Asuna also lied on the ground, tiredly looking at the sky. Wow, I witnessed 2 os today. Zeken's skill was amazing, but Naruto's just out of this world. Who the heck could defeat him with a skill like that, huh? Naruto took a deep breath, then looked around and saw the crowd was too silent. He was about to say something when the crowd began to cheer loudly. Did you see that? Yeah. Naruto-sama has just unleashed his os. And it was, wow. I couldn't find a word to describe that skill. And I thought that Zeken's os was an ultimate skill. What I just saw, just mind-blowing. Yuki stood up and began to approach Naruto. She was about to give Naruto her os, but Naruto denied and said, I come here to fight a strong opponent. Just keep that skill to yourself. After all, you need a trump card to defeat bosses, right? Yuki smiled in gratefulness and said, Whoa, Oni-san, how are you that strong? Even when I double team you with Oni-san over there, couldn't do much damage to you. Also, you somehow managed to avoid practically all my skills. That is because those skills belonged to me not long ago. But don't put yourself short. If I don't know about those skills, I would have a much harder time fighting you, said Naruto with a smile. Yuki smiled at him, then turned to Asuna, who stood up. Yosh, I've decided to take both of you. With that, she took both Naruto and Asuna's hand and began to fly up. Kirito and the girls call out the names, but Yuki just keep dragging them away. When they flew to a certain distance, Yuki turned to both of them and bowed her head, then said, Please, help us, wondered Asuna, cocking her head aside. Naruto also blinked in surprise at the request. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.